So welcome everybody to tonight's call for Drop the Cookie. Tonight is Thursday, March 2nd, and we have a fantastic guest speaker for you tonight. But before we get started with that, I want to just ask if anybody has any recognition, anyone that they'd like to shout out on their teams or anything of that nature. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you do. Nobody. Wow. Just after Team Cup month too, guys. Well, I have actually one quick shout out, and it's that one of my coaches, Anna, she just signed up her first coach, so she is halfway to Emerald, and we're very excited for her, so congratulations to Anna. And so tonight we are going to have Melissa Hadley. Is that correct? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Okay, so she is a 8-star diamond coach and the leader of a 3-time elite team of Team Destination U. She started coaching in March of 2012 and has hit Success Club every single month since she has started coaching. She is actually now 54 months as in Success Club 10, making her a Success Club 10 legend, all-star legend. And she will be speaking to us tonight about how a diagnosis changed her life and her business. I'm actually really excited about this call because she doesn't know it, but she spoke at my first ever summit. I'm sorry, guys. Well, hopefully it's just my connection, and maybe Melissa will be able to do a little bit better than my connection is. So you can go ahead and take it away, Melissa. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Can you unmute yourself, or do you need me to unmute you?
I got it.
There we go. So welcome.
Thank you. So for those of you who didn't hear that, I'll just give you a little background on me so that you know who I am. Again, my name is Melissa Hadley, and I know that Elizabeth's not on the call, but I thank her for letting me speak tonight. I am the leader of Team Destination U, and we're kind of on the same team because Keith is in my upline. I think we're on 2 different legs. So my upline is obviously Keith, and then Nicole L. Jones, one of his personally sponsored coaches. And we are a 3-time elite team. I'm a lifetime 8-star diamond. I started actually 5 years ago this month. So, and I've hit Success Club every month since March of 2012. Success Club 10 All-Star Legend for I forget how many months. But I tell you that not to say, oh, look at me, yay. I tell you that because the reason for that is because of consistently sharing my story. Can you guys, is my connection okay for you guys? Okay, good. So consistently sharing my story has been the key to my success. And again, the consistency is the biggest piece. So write that down. And I'm sure you hear that all the time from Elizabeth and your coaches, that consistent, everybody asks, what's the secret sauce? What's the secret to becoming successful with this business? The secret is consistency. That is the secret sauce. So Elizabeth wanted me to just go over some of my background and some of my story. I don't see any familiar faces. I was a photographer at Elizabeth's Diamond Retreat a couple years back. So I got to tell some people my story there, and the team Drop the Cookie has just exploded since that retreat. So congratulations to all of you. So in high school, that's really when my story began, but really my story began before that. But I'll start there. In high school, I was over 200 pounds. I was teased. I went to a Christian school. It doesn't matter what label you have on a school. Teasing happens everywhere. Bullying happens everywhere. And so I was teased for being, I was back then one of the only one of the only families whose parents divorced. My parents divorced when I was really young. And at that time, getting divorced just wasn't something that people were doing as prevalently as they are now. And so that was a whole nother thing that I dealt with. Fast forward to college, I started to lose some weight. I started to exercise, and I wasn't the party girl. I didn't go out every night. My roommates had to drag me out, kind of thing. I was the first one up to go to the gym, but I was also not eating the way I should be eating. I was taking diet pills. I was starving myself one day and then taking Dexatrim the next. It was just that scary cycle that I got into, just to lose the weight and to feel good about how I looked. And it was all about the looks at that point. So that was in college, and I met a guy who was a personal trainer. We started dating, and he's like, "You're not eating right." And I didn't want to listen to him. I didn't want to count calories. I didn't want to do any of that. I just wanted to have my lean cuisines and my slim fast drinks and all that stuff. So I continued to do what I did, and I was fine. I lost 70 pounds doing that, and then I started to count calories and use MyFitnessPal, and I started to do marathons, not training the right way. I hate running, but I would just do it for the challenge. I became a personal trainer around 2003. I'm still not eating right at all. Fast forward a couple years to around 2008, I got engaged, and I lost some more weight. And then in 2009, I woke up one morning and I couldn't feel my feet, and I didn't know why. I had just qualified to run the Boston Marathon, which was nothing that I ever thought I could do. Like I said, I'm not a runner, guys. I hate running, but I do marathons for the challenge of it all. So I had qualified, which meant that I had to run in my age bracket like a 3:40 marathon. So I had finally done that in October of 2008. January of 2009, I wake up and I can't feel my feet. So I thought, I live in Massachusetts. I'm running in the snow. My feet are just numb. Like, I didn't know what it was. I went to the doctor when it wouldn't go away, and I said, "What could this be?" And I had at the time worked with a hypochondriac, and she's like, "Melissa, I really think it sounds like multiple sclerosis." And I said, "No way, it's not multiple sclerosis." And it's funny because I had done the MS bike ride, 150-mile bike ride from Boston to Provincetown for many years, but I did it for the challenge. I never really knew what MS was until now when I looked it up, and I was like, I have all these symptoms, but this can't be it. So I went to the doctor. A couple days later, after they did an MRI, I got a call, and I was at work in my cubicle, and the doctor said, "I don't want to tell you this over the phone, but I need you to get to the emergency room." And I said, "Why?" I said, "Yeah, obviously I need you to just tell me right now." And he said, "I don't want to tell you, but you have multiple sclerosis." And I remember I cannot ever tell this story without getting teary. I dropped to my knees in my cubicle. My vice president was walking by, and she basically caught me before I collapsed, and somebody drove me to the emergency room, and I was admitted, and lots of testing later, it was confirmed pretty quickly that my MRIs, my brain, and my spinal cord lit up like a Christmas tree. And so MS is and this month is MS Awareness Month, ironically. MS is very different for a lot of people. So before I even start about my Beachbody journey, that's a little bit about me. I want to say, obviously, put the disclaimer out there right now that Shakeology is not a cure for any disease or illness. But here we go. So now I have MS. I immediately stopped artificial sweeteners. I was drinking at least 5 sodas a day, diet sodas, Coke Zero. I had at least 5 to 6 Splendas in my coffee a day, 3 coffees a day. So add that up. Very bad. So if there's anything that you take from this call, other than how to share your story, it's to stop the madness with the soda and stop the madness with the artificial sweeteners. That's one thing that I like to point out in every call, even though it has nothing to do with the business. It's always on my heart to make sure that I talk about that nutrition piece too. Because for me, all of those artificial things were eating away at my nervous system. And I was predisposed, for whatever reason genetically, to get MS if I was going to mess with my body with the foods that I was consuming. So every doctor that I've talked to has said to me off the books that the prevalence of MS in today's society is due to the foods that we are consuming. So fast forward a little bit more. I got married in 2009. I still ran that Boston Marathon in 2009, which was awesome, even though I couldn't feel my legs. Everything was great. At this point, I had lost all the weight, but remember, I hadn't done it the healthy way. It wasn't until I was diagnosed that I started to do it the healthy way. We were blessed to have a baby. We got pregnant right on our honeymoon, and then we had the baby 10 months later, because it's really 10 months. It's not 9 months. And I gained every single pound back that I had lost. I gained it right back. I was 203 pounds when I had my first child, which he is 6.5 now, Nicholas. And from there, I had nursed him for 13 months. I am not one of those lucky moms who drops weight the minute I start breastfeeding. I hold on to all of my weight the entire time until I'm done. It's just a hormonal thing, and that's just how it is. So I stopped nursing him, and my eyesight started to go, which is another symptom. So I started to lose my eyesight in my left eye. Now, one piece that I didn't mention is that when I was diagnosed, I decided to not take medication. I worked at a health insurance company. I saw the dangers and the side effects of every medication under the sun that came in from cases that I was handling. And I just decided, for me, meds were not for me. They have their time and their place, but not in my body. That was just my personal decision. So now that my eyesight was going, that was the one thing I always said: if my eyesight starts to go, I'll consider some medications. At this point, the doctors in Boston wanted to put me on meds that were oral medications, which were brand new to the market at that time. And they said, well, if you're going to have babies, you might want to start now because, this was before we were even married. You might want to start now because if you have these in your system, your baby could be born without arms or legs. And I said, if that's the case, I'm pretty sure I don't want it in my body. And so that was a big factor in my decision. So, but now it's February of 2012. And I had been talking to somebody about Shakeology since November, but when she approached me about it, I said, you can take your shake and basically stuff it, is pretty much what I said to her, because I was convinced that all that time that I was trying to lose weight, all those years, all the drinks that I was having, all that stuff had caused my MS. So that's in my head already. Without even looking at the research behind Shakeology or at the label, I said, stay away from me. And so she politely said, okay, I'll check back with you in a month, but I would look into it if I were you. She didn't send me any information. She just said, just research it. So I did. I was researching it for 5 months. She kept pinging me once a month, and I kept ignoring her messages. So if that's a little tip, is to keep pinging people even when you feel like you're being annoying. You might be being annoying to them, but eventually they're going to come around if you're patiently persistent. She was very patient, and she wasn't pushy. There's a difference. So she was patient. Then in January of 2012, so this was November 2011 when she started to talk to me about it. No, January 2012, I started to do Insanity. Now, I was probably like 190 pounds. I was a trainer. I knew how to modify. But where did I get Insanity? I got it off of Craigslist because I had no idea that Insanity was a Beachbody workout. I had no clue. She had never told me about it. I didn't know. So I bought it off of Craigslist and I did it, and I lost a lot of weight. I think I lost probably 25 to 30 pounds because at this point I had stopped nursing and I was guns blazing, gonna lose this weight. Now she started to talk to me because I started a blog at the same time. It was January 1st, 2012, and I started this blog, and she's like, Melissa, you're doing what coaches do. You just need to do this stuff. Now, mind you, I said no because I was still researching Shakeology. So I had asked my ex, who trains Olympians, to look at Shakeology for me, and he researched it with me and said, this is hands down one of the best things on the market. You can't go wrong with this. It probably will help you. So when I got his green light, I tried it. Now, again, Shakeology is not a cure, but it's helped me a lot. And 1 month after trying Shakeology as a customer, buying one bag at full price, my eyesight started to come back. I had no numbness. I had energy through the roof, which people with MS have like zero energy. And mind you, I was the mom of a 1-year-old and I had a ton of energy. So all of this, finally I said, sign me up. Let's get a challenge pack. Turbo Fire, here I come. For $205, I got Turbo Fire and Shakeology. And the rest is history. That's what I said on stage to Jeff Hill when he asked me, then what? And I said, well, the rest is history. He's like, no. The rest is not history. But from there, I literally hadn't even gotten my challenge backpack box, and I was posting on Facebook. And I said, first of all, I never intended to work the business. So the people that tell you that they don't want to work the business are likely going to be your next rock stars, because I had no intention on signing up anybody. I had started my blog. I wanted to be accountable. And so when I bought this, it was just accountability for posting it out there and putting it out there. So I posted and boom, boom, boom. I had 3 people sign up within 48 hours and I was emerald. I didn't even know what that meant. All I did was sign them up the way I signed up. And so I tell you all that, and I'm sure you've heard it a million times before. Don't discount your discount coaches. If they say, no, I just want to be a discount coach, nudge them a little. Nudge them to put it out there. Don't force them to do it, but nudge them a little. You just never know. They could inspire some people. And so the rest kind of is history. I keep sharing my story. Even when you think that you're annoying people, and even when you think that everybody has heard your story already, they probably haven't. So how many of you, by the show of hands, because I can see you all, how many of you knew my story before I just told it to you? Right. So, it's funny because I feel like everybody knows my story, because I did get to speak on stage at Summit a couple years ago and tell my story. I did get to, my dog has to go out, lovely. I do have my story on YouTube. It's everywhere. It's on my profile, but not everybody knows. I still, to this day, have people ask me, are you a Beachbody coach? Yes, I am a Beachbody coach. So people don't necessarily know, because you know how Facebook works. They don't see every post that you put out there. So just know that you're not speaking to the wall when you're posting, even if you feel like nobody's listening, if nobody's liking your posts and things like that. People are watching you. So when you're sharing your story, I should say, I don't want to leave, hey, it's okay, sorry. I don't want to leave out my second son. He's part of my new story. So I just had a baby 3 months ago, and I didn't gain nearly as much weight with him because I have Beachbody and I have the Shakeology now. And so I'm on my second part of my story, and that brings up another point. Your story is never over. And your story doesn't have to be as grandiose as having a diagnosis. In fact, I say this all the time. I hope you don't have a story that says, I hope you complex. Don't be afraid to share over and over again. Time hop is an awesome feature where you can recycle some of your posts. You can reword them because you've probably learned a lot since a year before, but you can make new photos. You can recycle your posts because you've added new friends over the course of a year. So go back and use some of those posts for ideas if you're stumbling on, what ideas or what posts to put out there. If you're running out of ideas for that, use your old posts to tell your story again, because again, you've added new friends and they haven't heard it yet. So have your consistency. I'm sure you've heard too, to breadcrumb your story. Obviously, I don't go on Facebook and post everything I just told you in one post. I breadcrumb it out there. And if you don't, every time I do this call, there's at least one person on the call that doesn't feel like they have a story. But is there anybody on this call that feels like they don't have a story to tell? No? Maybe. You do. Because your story, there was something that brought you to reach out to your coach. Some place that you were at in your life that spurred you to say, yes, let's do this. Yes, sign me up. Let me get whatever challenge pack, or sign me up with Shakeology. Something made you do that. So that something is page 1 of your story for your Beachbody chapter. And this chapter can be as long as you want. So that is part of it. You've probably also been told to talk about the 5 things about you. Now, your Beachbody is a chapter in your book. It's not your whole book. Beachbody is a big piece of who you are, but it's not all of who you are. So my things are, I'm a mom. I am kind of sort of still a photographer. I still love photography. I have a golden doodle that I love, so I'm a dog mom. I'm a Christian. I'm a runner. I'm a triathlete. I'm all these other things. So you have to post about those other things too. Otherwise, you're just going to be, an advertisement, sales, Facebook page, Instagram page, whatever, versus somebody that people want to follow. You want your page to be like your own little reality show where people want to tune in to find out what's going on. And I'm sure you've been told too, to make sure that when you're telling your story, when you're telling your Beachbody business story, when you're telling your Beachbody transformation story, to be positive and to shine light, especially now, guys, because the world out there, the social media world, the news world, it's so dark. Be the light to light up that darkness, and to really speak to your audience. So if you are a political person and you have lots of political people, then post about politics. But if you don't, and you kind of want to stay away from all of that, I personally wouldn't be posting about politics. Because it can be very controversial. So staying away from controversial type posts is really helpful. But if you don't care about controversy and you're kind of into that kind of thing and debates, awesome. That's your tribe. That's what you're going to post about. And that's one of your top 5 things. That's great. But make sure that you're true to yourself and you're true to who you want to attract when you're telling your story through your top 5 things. Does that make sense? I hope. Okay. And Elizabeth does a beautiful job with this, with talking about, she writes beautiful posts They're like blog posts, but people want to read. If you're great at writing, there's still beautiful ways that you can tell your story, especially now with live video. If you're not used to live video, definitely get used to it, because that's a great way to show your passion with your voice versus with words. If you're better at speaking than you are with writing. So just find what way you speak, where you can touch people. Be real. It's hard sometimes because we want to tell our story through the lens of somebody else's story sometimes. But if we don't have our blinders on, just do your own thing. Put your blinders on, do your own thing, and be real and be you, because people will be able to tell if you're not being real and you're not being you. So make sure you're being confident and be unapologetically you. I tell my team that all the time. And there's a way, so I get this question a lot when I do this call about, well, my story goes back to my childhood where it all started because my parents got divorced and my dad was an alcoholic. Guys, that's my story. My dad is an alcoholic. But I never tell that part of my story. Maybe you have something similar where you can't tell your full story because it would call out people in your family, or it would call out friends or whatever. You don't have to call them out. There's a way to tell your story without calling people out and getting lash back from your family. I've never once told publicly, aside from Zoom calls, that my father is an alcoholic, and was. But I do say things like, food is an addiction too, just like alcohol, gambling, whatever. Food is just as big of an addiction, and it can kill just like drugs or alcohol, right? So in my story, addiction is something that my family deals with, and that is something that I have an addictive personality. That's just genetic. It's a genetic thing. But food is my vice. Food is my drug. Versus alcohol or drugs. So I tell my story in that way without ever calling out my family. You know what I mean? So if you struggle with that, definitely think of different ways that you can tell your story without pointing or shaming others. Always know, too, that you're going to have naysayers. You're going to have people that are going to say, could you please just stop with the shake posts? Could you please just stop posting about your workouts? The last thing I want to see is your sweaty body jumping around your living room. Like, I've gotten all those things. And I say, well, there's a very pretty button called the unfollow button. You don't have to follow me. But I'm just trying to be a positive light in a negative world. And if you don't want to be part of that positivity, I'm sorry. Like, that's always my response to that. I have been told by complete strangers that I don't have a mess and I'm lying. Oh yes, I would lie about that. So you can't let those naysayers get you down, because for every one person that's going to be up your butt about being annoying, there's 15 to 20 other ones that are waiting in the shadows, waiting to come out and join you on this journey, that are watching you to be sure that you're going to be consistent and say, is this really going to work? Is this somebody that I can trust to be my coach and walk this road with me? There's people waiting to reach out to you, and it's up to you to just keep being consistent, reach out to people, and let them know that you're there to help them. So don't let the naysayers get you down. Heck, my mom still doesn't drink Shakeology 5 years later. But there's nothing that I can do to change her mind. She just has to see my consistency and be ready when she's ready. So that's it, guys. Just share your story, like I said, unapologetically, and just be you. So if you guys have questions, you can let me know. I think she might have wanted me to go over a little bit of the business, but the business just kind of falls into place when you have your heart in the right place. Oh, I see that there was a question. When you have your heart in the right place, and like Elizabeth does, like your leaders do, the business happens and it unfolds, but not without work, right? It takes work. you know, the coaching opportunity is not guaranteed. It all comes with work. There's my disclaimer. But I never, ever, like I said at the beginning, thought that I would be successful with this or even make any money. Like, that wasn't my intent. But now being a 6-figure earner, and in this for 5 years, I quit my full-time job in 2013, and I'm home now. I get to stay home with Jackson, and I wasn't able to do that with Nicholas. So if that's your goal, do that. And it comes with sharing your story and sharing your story about the business opportunity too. Even if it means that you just tell people, hey, I made, you know, enough money, even if it's $14, guys, I made enough money to pay for dinner out or half a tank of gas. That's a big deal to some people. And that's a part of your story. That's a part of your business story. So you have a lot to go on if you think of your business story and your fitness and nutrition stories as separate. Oh, you see my car at Wegmans. Yes, and that is on my team. So awesome. My car is not hard to miss with my big advertisement. Does anybody have any questions at all?
Well, if anybody has any questions, guys, you know, feel free, again, you can ask them in the comments or feel free to unmute. But Melissa, thank you so much for taking your time tonight to speak with our team. Really appreciate it. And I guess I'm speaking a little bit for Liz, but we really do appreciate everything that you have and to share with us and your time.
No problem. It was my pleasure.
So I guess that's all for tonight then, guys. So I hope that you guys make it an absolutely awesome week, and we will talk again soon. Thanks again.
Take care.
Okay, bye.